I believe there are three kinds of life, and depending on where we're at on that spectrum of lives, we're going to have a different quality of life. If we're on this side of the spectrum, we're often miserable and suffering and struggling and upset all the time. And if we're over here, we're fully engaged and energized and enthusiastic. And knowing where we are on this spectrum can completely change our lives, because we can make a decision about what type of life we want to live. You know, the first type of life I believe a lot of people live is the caged life. And the caged life is just that. It feels like you're caged, like you're trapped. You're trapped in, you know, your past, or you're trapped in your current circumstances. Maybe you're trapped in other people's expectations. Maybe you're just trapped in your own personal limitations of belief or behavior, and you don't feel like you can break free. You don't feel like you can have that emotional freedom or that time freedom or that financial freedom. You truly feel trapped. And, you know, everyone's been there sometimes in their life where they just don't feel like they can get out of something, or they feel like they're really struggling. But, you know, over a period of time, the caged life has a look, it has a feel, it has a sound. You know, if you take a big animal and you throw it into the zoo and put it behind bars, that big animal will stalk in frustration and fire and want to get out of there. Over a period of time, though, that animal soon becomes resigned, and it goes back towards the back of the cage, and it sits there angry and frustrated, looking out into the world. And as that animal looks out into the world, it has that resignation of anger and frustration. And you can tell when a person is there, though, because they often say something, and they have this recurring pattern of communication that if you just listen, you'll know that somebody's trapped in the caged life. Because when they're back there, when they're resigned, when they're frustrated, and they're looking at all those successful, lucky people who were just born with all of that, or just they got lucky, right? When they look to the world, they often point to the world in anger, and they say, they don't understand me. And they have this fire in them that believes that other people can't understand them, that they are trapped in something that nobody else could understand. And the great tragedy of all that is a very simple thing, is that those very people who say, they can't understand me, or they don't know, those people, their anger separates them from other people. And now they're less likely to be the ones who ask for help. And yet they're the ones who need the help. And we can't forget that the reality of the person who's angry and resigned in life and saying, nobody understands me, they're really operating from a place, and it's tough to say to people, but they're really operating from a place that's very high in ego. They believe that they're so special, and their circumstances are so special. They believe that, well, no one else has ever had cancer, no one else has ever had lost somebody, no one else has ever gone bankrupt, no one else could ever understand me. But the reality is, out of 7 billion people and thousands of years of history, somebody's been through it before. But their belief that nobody has been through it before makes them less likely to ask for help. And the caged life, over a period of time, starts to feel miserable. And usually only two things change your life. Either something new comes into your life and rattles your cage, or breaks you free. Maybe that rattling of your cage is, you know, maybe you get lucky, you win the lottery, or a new person comes in your life and changes your life, or a new circumstances, a new opportunity comes in, it forever alters the course of your life, it breaks you free. But for a lot of people, the second thing that changes our lives is, nothing new has to come into our lives. Something new has to come out of us. We have to make a different decision about who we're going to be and what we're going to go after in life, about how hard we're going to work, about what we truly, truly demand of ourselves every single day, about how limited our lives will be by choice, not by circumstances. And at some point, the people who've been living a caged life, after a period of time of watching enough people go by who are succeeding, if maturity lands on them, it lands on them with an impulse to say, I've got to take control over the direction of my life. I've got to break free from these bars because I've set them up. At some point, we've come to realize, I think, in maturity, that we set our own cages. We build our own bars, and that there was always a door over here that we could get out of, but we never made the choice to. And when we finally decide to change our life, we're more likely to go out that door, but we always have to remember, you know, never forget that when you knock on the door of opportunity, that it is work who answers. You know, it's going to take a lot of work to change your life, to break free from the bars, to get going again. But I think that's the great opportunity. And when people finally break through that cage and they get out in the open and have more freedom in their life, that kind of life has a quality too. It feels incredibly different. That kind of life feels more free. And that kind of life over a period of time is incredible because you have more freedom to direct yourself, more freedom to do things. And what ends up is people end up with deeper skills. they end up, chasing their passions more often. That often, as they get on a roll, they start becoming more successful. As they become more successful, the things they think that they wanted in their lives come into their lives. They got the 2-car garage, the white picket fence, the house, the kids, the friends, the dinner parties, enough to get by and maybe a little bit more.